Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to my channel. In this video, I will be going over some healthy tips and ways of dealing with stress and anxiety. Before we get into this video, I want to give a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor, and the information discussed in this video is what works for me as an individual. So consult with your doctor when changing your daily routines or medical routines. So with that being said, if you like the content shown in this video, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. And don't be shy, leave a comment, share your thoughts, give me your ideas on how you deal with your stress. So let's get right into this video. Let's talk about stress. Stress can be defined as the degree to which you feel overwhelmed or unable to cope as a result of pressures that are unmanageable. So we all have been there at some point in our lives. What we don't know always is that there are many different types of stresses, and we're going to get right into what those three main type of stresses are. So let's get into acute stress. Acute stress causes the release of chemicals that in small doses can be very helpful, even life-saving. When the amount of acute stress is limited in duration, it may cause you to feel excitement or exhilaration. However, large doses of acute stress are not exhilarating. Rather, it can cause physical and mental fatigue. So you might experience this type of stress in more of a work environment or setting. Say, for example, you have a presentation coming up where you have to speak publicly and you don't like to speak in large crowds. So you might feel this type of stress. It's something you don't necessarily look forward to doing, but you know you have to do it and you get through it, and then there's a little bit of excitement and build up to that. Well, that's healthy, but when you have that in a large amount, it becomes mentally stressful on you, and it can become physically stressful. So I believe that's what that's saying. And some symptoms here I want to highlight that you might feel if you're under acute stress is anger, irritability, anxiety, depression, tension headaches, back pain, jaw pain, muscle tension, stomach aches, heartburn, and the list goes on. And I'm always going to have everything that I'm citing listed in the description box below if you want to revert back and reference any information that I'm pulling from on these sites here. This is all obtainable and Googleable. You can research yourself as well. Just want to let you know that it is available for reference. Episodic acute stress is next. People in this category are often referred to as having lives filled with chaos and crisis, always being in a rush, always worrying about what can go wrong, always being in an environment that is in disarray, having high demands placed on them by others or their own expectations can all attribute to episodic acute stress. So this is a stress that comes right after acute stress. And it's when acute stress is too much. It's when you're facing large amounts of acute stress. So whether it be a demanding job, a demanding family, being put in expectations that might just be a little too much for you can put you under episodic acute stress. If you have a lot of drama, a lot of different negative things going on in your life, bet your bottom dollar you're going to fall under episodic acute stress. And some symptoms that you might find when you're facing episodic acute stress are short-tempered, irritable, anxious, tense, nervous energy, feeling or acting rushed, abrupt, hostile, hypertension, chest pains, heart disease. These are all things that are associated with episodic acute stress. And these symptoms alone just say stroke all over them. The fact that hypertension, chest pains, and heart disease falls under this stress, it's very serious, and it's something that if you are feeling like this, you definitely want to consult with a doctor. You do not want to play around if you're facing these symptoms or you feel like you fall under this type of stress. And last but not least, the third type of stress, chronic stress. Chronic stress occurs when a person is in a repetitively stressful environment and can't see any way out of their situation. They feel trapped, so hopeless and so helpless that actually give up on trying to find a solution. So, once you're at this point, you're more than likely so far beyond acute stress, episodic acute stress, you're just going through the motions at this point. Anytime you get to the point where you're not finding solutions and you're just getting through whatever the situation may be, you start to come numb and more acceptable to this type of environment because you're comfortable. You're used to it. You haven't found a solution. You're just coping with it to the point where you're stagnant. And this is very serious once you get to this point because you're going beyond your mental. Now you're going to physically do harm to yourself by not getting treated. So if you have not been treated for chronic stress and you feel that you fall under these type of circumstances, please consult with a doctor because it is very serious. You don't want to wait till it gets to chronic stress before you seek help. And a lot of us do get comfortable with the type of environments that we grow familiar with, especially when you don't have a solution. And the whole point is you want to be proactive, not retroactive, especially when it comes to your health and your mental health and your spiritual health. You do not want to play around with that. Don't never be stuck. Have a solution. So when you find yourself complaining, you're just going through the motions and you're not addressing the issue at hand. So please do get help if you have not and you do fall under any of these three type of stresses. So when we get into stresses, we know chronic stress is at the peak. And when you get to chronic stress, more than likely you will get in depression or face anxiety. And when you get into anxiety, you're getting into an extreme amount of stress based off what we already know about the three types of stresses. So anxiety. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an intimate event or something with an uncertain outcome. So you can become so stressed and you start to build anxiety. And when you get to this point, you're going to feel anxious, and some of those symptoms that we already went over previously, which will have you feeling uncertain about things that you typically would be sure about. Whether you're in a toxic work environment, home environment, dealing with toxic relationships, you're more than likely going to build some type of anxiety once it become at a chronic stressful state. And you definitely want to address that. A lot of us deal with these things on a regular basis and we cope with them. And coping is just getting by to me. It's not a solution when you're just coping. You're just going through the motions and you're not addressing the issue. Some generalized examples that you might feel anxious in typically are the environments that you deal with most. So, work environment. When you have a very demanding job and the environment is forever changing, you're dealing with different people at any given time, or you're giving more of a demand within your job specifications, I should say, you're going to probably have a high stress level. And it can be not healthy, but you're so used to it, you continue to go through the motions. You continue to cope. And it's not always the best thing when you don't address these things. And it could be other things like your home environment, where you might have a lot of demand going on, whether it be having a lot of things to do or having high expectations set that you feel like if you don't meet them, it's going to do something. And it might be very small to everyone else, but it's very big to you. And we face these things once we get to chronic stress levels. Another thing is toxic relationships. We've all at some point have been in an unhealthy situation with dealing with someone that you have to communicate with. There's healthy communication and there's unhealthy communication, whether it be in a work setting or a family setting or just a strictly passing through situation, one-off type situation. And one thing that I know about toxic relationships are that, if you continue to have these type of relationships with almost everyone you encounter, that there's something within yourself that you should start assessing. And that's just common sense when dealing with communicating. If it's a constant strife with other people, more than likely there's something you need to reevaluate about yourself. It can't always be everyone else. And that is a stressful situation to be in, because you have to go back to what is causing you to have problems with communicating with other people, to the point where you're having a high volume of toxic relationships. You definitely need to know when you're in a toxic relationship so that you know how to get out of a toxic relationship. If you are dealing with toxic people that you should be able to communicate with in a respectful manner, in a less stressful manner, such as family, then that's something that you might want to consult a doctor with, because you have to deal with certain people and you want to be able to do that in an unstressful way. You do not want to have anxiety when you're around the people that you love and that you should feel at ease being around, no matter who that might be, whoever that you are close to, and you're feeling that way. There's definitely something you need to address with that or with yourself. So these are things that we deal with on a common basis that can cause these different types of stresses. And knowing how to deal with them is having a solution. And I'm someone who love and can articulate my issues, but I also like to have a solution to what those things are, and something positive that's a little outside of the box. Always consult your doctor, as I stated several times throughout this video. These are things that specifically have worked for me. Someone who has faced anxiety and depression, and someone who does have a high level of stress in my life. And I haven't always been able to cope in the manner that I'm able to now, but I would like to share some things and some tips, especially in this time and day where what we're dealing with the pandemic, with people being, in their homes. A lot of people don't have good environments and they're forced to be in those environments. And I think this might be helpful to people, especially with the tone and the changes that we've been going through in the past 10 months. I thought this would be just a great way to give back. So it works for me, and it can work for you. Number one is, finding things that make you feel good, specifically for you. You have to take care of yourself in every way, whether it be mentally, physically, and very important to me, spiritually. And one of the very important things that helps me get through my stress, my anxiety, is my relationship with my Maker. I find it being spiritual really helps me get through everything. I look at everything spiritually, and when I'm doing that, I'm always doing a check and balance of myself. I don't always get it right, but I'm always making myself aware. And being able to pray and being able to build faith is something that keeps me going. It gives me something to inspire for, or a goal, and it's a check and balance in itself. So I know it sounds cliche, but prayer is definitely something that gets me through, whether it be, congregating with other people like my way of spirituality, being with communities that are similar in that way really helps you get through things, and it's encouraging, and it also gives you a networking to be able to talk to people that can really build you up spiritually. Is going to help you all the way around when dealing with any type of stress. So number one is prayer. What falls in line with prayer is meditation, and they kind of go hand in hand for me. And I always try to start my day with prayer and then meditation. Meditation can be whatever you need it to be for you, but it's a place of peace of mind. And no matter what environment you're in, you're able to get to a certain calmness, a certain quietness, where you just take the time out to just nothing. Your mind is always going when you have anxiety. I know for me, I'm always overthinking and overanalyzing. So meditating is a way to completely turn all that off. So meditation, definitely a big key to helping me with my anxiety. And the third thing is eating. Eating well is always a plus, no matter how you look at it. Physically, mentally, eating well is always a plus anytime we're talking about health. And there are different types of foods that you can eat that actually helps reduce anxiety and stress. And I have a list of things. Again, this all will be in the description box below, but I'm just going to briefly go over some of the things on the list. Brazil nuts, like fatty fishes is another good thing to eat. Eggs is another thing. Pumpkin seeds, dark chocolate. We all know dark chocolate is good for the heart. Turmeric, yogurt. I'm a big yogurt person. Green tea is another. I have a description link in the description box for a great green tea that has always worked for me. It's not a green tea, it's a black tea, but it is definitely a great tea. You can go through this list. Again, I will have the link in the description box below. But eating healthy is always a plus. If you watch previous videos of mine, I also cook, and I don't always show healthy cooking, and that's something that is definitely a part of this segment of my YouTube videos. I started a business, NEKU, a shameless plug, which will be more on the healthier side. So anything I've already cooked on YouTube, I will be doing those recipes and giving you a healthier alternative to those recipes, just as a way to show both sides of the coin. It's trendy right now to be vegan and to be healthy, but it should be a part of your everyday way of life. in order to sustain it anyway. So you can kind of go through that journey with me in doing that. But those are the key things that helps me besides, medications. And again, I'm taking a completely holistic approach to the way that I deal with my stress and anxiety. Again, you shouldn't change your routines without consulting with your doctor. But for me, I do take that holistic approach, and I prefer more of a herbal method to dealing with my stresses. And it has really worked for me thus far. Again, eating, prayer, meditation, hobbies. You definitely want to get into some good hobbies. Pick up some things, learn some new things, whether it be, reading new books, picking up different types of art, hobbies, learning any type of new trade. Try to do something different in your life to build up your self-esteem, to try to get you more involved into less negative things. If you find yourself surrounded by drama all the time, you want to build barriers there and alternatives for you, especially if you're at a chronic stress level, which, as stated before, is a level that you just feel you can't get out of. You might can't get out of it physically, but you definitely can find ways to get away from it mentally. This will help you physically in the long run. So I hope this information is helping someone out there, especially with what everything has taken place over the last year. It has helped me. It's, something that's going to build you up. Music is another thing that really inspires me and calms me, whether it's just listening to water, thunder, a good album, something positive. SOUNDSEPIDEMIC, plug to my husband. He does all of my music material for my videos. He has a nice album coming out. I do have the luxury of listening to it, and it's a very calming, peaceful album for me. And I love to listen to positive things, and it really does something to get you in a mood to think positive. If you're listening to positive things, you're doing positive things, I believe positive will come back to you. So if you find yourself always in a negative spot, you got to start with you. You have to take yourself out of that negative spot before you can go anywhere with anyone else. So with that being said, like always, I appreciate you for tuning in and watching this video. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And like always, until next video, deuces.